Welcome. Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and open Littleton Conservation Commission virtual meeting, and it's May 27th, 2025. We're going to go ahead and start with 7:30 administrative discussions. Does anyone have anything they would like to add to the list that we have? Tim, you have one?
Yep, 15 powers.
Okay, great. Anyone else have anything? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Request for minor modification, 04 Pond, DEP 204-0988, boathouse footprint modification. And is that the letter that came in that was sent to us, Tim?
That one was actually on last meeting's agenda, and Steve Marsh was supposed to be showing up to discuss it, and I don't see him here again today.
Okay, so who's here to address 04 Pond? Anyone?
Nobody.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump down to discussion conservation parcel U17-208-0. What do we need to know on this?
So this was the parcel that Parks and Rec floated the idea of having canoe and kayak storage on, and having the funding for that, that the members of the public pay a fee for, going towards Clean Lakes Committee issues.
And is that a discussion that we're facilitating, or that they're going to come to us?
The only time we really talked about it was just kind of taking your guys' temperatures about how you feel for it, and where we left off was the commissioners were going to drive by the parcel and see what they thought about it, and we'd revisit it.
Okay. What would you all like to do? We're shy at least 3 commissioners at this moment. Do we want to have this discussion or put it forward at another time?
I think we should probably table it.
Okay. I feel like it's a hearty discussion, so we'll come back to that. Next is the Assistant Conservation Agent updates. I can certainly help with that. I've really had the pleasure of meeting quite a few individuals. We did a lot of in the town hall interviews, first rounds, second rounds, a few virtuals. We hope to bring forth good information by the next meeting, so hopefully with some offers in mind and in hand. So we were very pleased with the caliber and great questions that both the men and women basically asked. So Tim, anything to add on to that?
Nope, you summed it up.
Okay, great. Conservation signature authorization.
Yep. So this is the annual vote that the commission will need to do to designate the number of members and which members will be authorized to sign off of or sign off on or approve bills.
Okay. Historically, you've had 2 or 1?
It's been 2. It's been Kyle and Chase.
Okay. Kyle, are you volunteering again?
Sure. Yeah, I had no issue with that.
Okay. Well, I don't want to put forth that to Chase. Is there anyone else that would like to do that in his absence?
I'm happy to be the docu-signer if you'd like.
Thank you. So everyone good with that? So Kyle and Andrew going forward. Okay. Conservation Commissioners term expirations and renewals.
Sarah, can we get a vote? Can we get a vote?
Sorry. Okay. Yep. Okay. Sorry. I would like to make a motion that we appoint 2 current Conservation Commissioners, Andrew Samarco and Kyle Maxfield, to be the signatories for conservation authorization. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. We'll do signing proudly.
Okay, thank you. Next is Conservation Commissioner term expiration and renewals.
So this was just a reminder that Kyle and Andrew, your terms are set to expire at the end of June.
Time flies. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
And Andrew, with the process of renewal, would that require another commission vote, or is that as simple as going to the town clerk's office and getting re-sworn in.
So basically, this board can recommend candidates for the role, but ultimately the select board will gather the applications to the town administrator's office, and then they'll make the appointment.
Okay.
And then, yeah, once the appointments are done, there's a swearing in at the town clerk's office, and bing, bang, boom.
Perfect.
Okay. Next is CPC project updates.
Yeah, I just had a quick little thing on that. I don't know if you guys are aware, but at the town meeting a couple weeks ago, our invasive plant control application and walkway for the frog pond were both approved pretty quickly. And so once we start hearing from Steve Yonley about the dredging project and getting that permitting underway, we can tie that into tie those other projects to that, and hopefully get those permitted and get some RFPs out and get that done.
What do you think, Andrew, might be the kind of like the crystal ball of when that might happen?
Initially, we had heard later this summer, so hopefully we can keep with that timeline and maybe get some NOIs in, and yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Tim, we're going to come back to you. 15 Powers.
Yep. So this is just to update you guys that I went by the property today, and the shipping container or storage container, it has been removed from the property from what I could see from the road.
Okay. Great. All right, we are. Ooh.
So I'm sorry, it's gone from the property completely. It's not. It has been relocated.
From what I can see,
great question.
There's certain, I couldn't see some areas from the road, but it's from what I could tell, it's been removed from the property.
Interesting.
I think that would be hard to hide given how the layout is there.
Yeah, right. You should be able, you can see down the driveway, right? I think it's a pretty straight shot, but
yeah, it's
yeah.
I guess you couldn't really see directly behind the house if there was something there.
So
well, that's in a better spot than where it posed anyway, I guess. So if that's where it is.
Sure. Tim, I know you have a lot on your plate, so maybe in another month or whatever, we could reach back out to them and ask them just to kind of come in and give us an update.
Sure.
Or you can have Matt Morrow come in and give us an update.
Yeah, I think ideally they were going to start doing the work cleaning out that fill within the next couple of weeks.
Oh, perfect.
Then
okay.
The next marker would be for them to contact me or a member of the commission to go out and to assess the quality of the fill before they continue with the rest of the restoration work.
Okay. So our next is not till 7:45, so we have a few moments. I did want to, I listened to the last meeting and just kind of brought forth, Kyle, I appreciate your comments at the end about notifying if we can't make a meeting. I think we've been really diligent. I think summer can be difficult and everything. So if we can just kind of look forward to that so Tim doesn't have to chase us. And then the other is the reminder that if you are going to recuse yourself, you need to do it as soon as the hearing opens, to please recuse yourself there. So that will make things go smoothly. And I think for later on, for 8:45, there's only 3 of us right now. So as of right now, if Chase, Ed, or Carl do not join us for 8:45, we will not be able to open that. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on that. All right, I know this is rare. We actually have 5 minutes. Perhaps, Tim, you could bring us up to date on some of those site walks that we had scheduled that got canceled. So where are we with that and trying to reschedule them?
Yep. Those have been rescheduled for tomorrow at 4:30 and 5:30. 4:30 being the 64 Beaverbrook one, and then the 5:30 is the 97 Mill Road.
Okay. Anyone able to make those? I'm not able to make them.
I can go to the Beaver Brook one. I won't be able to make Mill Road though.
I can probably pop into the 4:30, but yeah, the later one might be a little tricky.
yeah, I won't be able to make either. I don't think I need to go to Mill Road. I'm pretty aware of what's there from the first time we went. It hasn't
Yeah.
changed at all in the past 4 years.
Speaking of that, are there stakes or anything on either? And then perhaps, Tim, we might ask if other commissioners could have permission to enter at their leisure.
Yeah, I can definitely ask about that.
Yeah, they had said, at least Mill Road, they were all gung ho and had said, yeah, everything's staked out, we're ready to go. So when you had said they asked to postpone, that made me a little nervous.
I think that was just because we weren't able to get the site walk in before this meeting.
Okay. All right. So for the commissioners that aren't on tonight, it might be nice when you have time to just set a reminder that they do have an opportunity prior to the next meeting to go out on site. Anyone seen anything memorable from a conservation standpoint in Littleton or anywhere else in their travels the last couple of weeks?
I guess speaking of site walks, Tim, did you get to go to Hadawan, that new septic? I forget the applicant's name, but they're full bore digging away and have stockpiles of material.
Okay, I wasn't notified that work had started over there. I haven't got to that one. I've gotten to quite a few within the last week. And all sites, generally speaking, look pretty good.
I just happened to drive by that one and saw that they were working. So
yeah,
I'll
make sure to let you know out there. Yeah, I was able to get out to the Trumbull Well, 242 King.
how does that one look?
Generally good. Yeah, I mean, a lot better than it had looked. They're still getting a lot of runoff from the highway that's going into the retention basin there.
Yeah.
I was talking to the one of the contractors there, and he was saying can't remember the last time you saw that thing dry.
Right.
But yeah, they're making some serious progress over there as far as the infrastructure goes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for doing all those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's go ahead. 7:45. We'd like to open public hearing request for amended order of conditions, Foster Street reconstruction, DEP 204-0991. It's a relocation of leaching catch basins and use of herbicides to treat invasive species.
I'm going to promote Aaron to talk to that.
Oh, okay. I'm unmuted. Good evening, Commission. Thank you for the time slot here. This is a request for 2 amendments to the existing order of conditions to Foster Street reconstruction, DEP file number 204-0991. My name is Aaron Keegan. I'm a project engineer for Foster O'Neill, representing the town of Littleton, who is the applicant for this project tonight. And I will just describe the 2 requested amendments. The first is for a change to the order to use a herbicidal treatment for invasive species within the project limits. And I want to start by saying that there is an ongoing discussion between the contractor, Onyx Corporation, and Mass DOT, who is managing the project site. They have a landscaping section. They're actually discussing how much herbicide would be needed and if strictly non-herbicidal methods could be used. So I actually don't know the result of that discussion. However, I don't want to withdraw the request yet. And so the request is basically we've provided a detailed document from a subconsultant named SWCA, and they've described the invasive species present within the project limits. They've mapped them, and they've given a schedule of potential herbicidal treatment specific to the species of invasives that were found, with a proposed schedule of application of the herbicides. So, and that work would also come with, per Mass DOT standard provisions, would come with periodic notices to the commission about when herbicides are being used, what herbicides are being used. So there's requirements for disclosing that information, keeping the commission informed should the work proceed. And then there's provisions for the treatment to be checked through the duration of the construction project to see if invasives have come back. And the standard of eradication is, I believe, 75% for MassDOT, 75% not returning after application. And so the proponent would be responsible for reapplication to meet that standard through the end of the project, which is anticipated at the end of the year 2026. So that's the first part of the request. I can pause now for questions, or I can go into the second part.
Aaron, I think it would be helpful if you have a moment to screen share for the commissioners to perhaps show target areas that we're referencing. I believe that all the commissioners are familiar with the site, and I agree to carry on through this conversation. And if you do know target spots of which herbicide application would be used.
Okay. Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to see from Aaron with those slide deck? Okay, carry on.
Okay. All right. So the consultant did identify a number of areas with invasives, and they actually kind of went above and beyond and are showing areas that are beyond the authorized project work limits. So the orange line is actually the established.
Aaron, would you excuse me? Would you like to screen share?
Oh, okay. Did I not? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought there's one last button. Sorry.
Yep, no worries.
Here we go.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm showing the first page of the plan set. I've got this red area shown in red is identified as having Japanese knotweed. So the consultant has identified a larger area of presence of the invasives than the project limits. The work would only be able to proceed within the MassDOT project limits, and so the project would not be able to eradicate the entire population identified beyond the project limits. The work would only take place inside the orange boundary as shown. And so Japanese knotweed, the recommended procedure for treatment would be foliar treatment, glyphosate, and the recommended time frame would be August to mid-October. Now, I do recall that the consultant's also saying that Japanese knotweed can be managed through non-herbicide methods. In fact, they describe a combination of the two methods. So in some cases, removing mechanically with hand tools or power tools, burying, or removing from the site, and then in other cases, treatment. So they would work with the consultant would basically do a combination of the two, minimizing the use of the herbicides. But in this case, it looks like they are asking for permission to use glyphosate during this time frame, August to mid-October, for that particular invasive. And so let me just go to some other parts of the project where there's Japanese knotweed. This is on Taylor Street, kind of just west of the intersection of Foster Street. If we move through the project, we can see another. Oh, let's see. That's bittersweet. Japanese knotweed again on Foster Street. A small 3x3 area here as we're moving east on Foster Street. Let me just continue. It's like another patch in this area where we're now at 300 Foster Street. 2 patches of Japanese knotweed. Let's see, keep going. It looks like this area we're at 295 Foster Street. There's some mixed density of Japanese knotweed mixed in with some other invasives. Continuing on. So quite a bit, as you can see, in the peripheral of the project. See this area, I don't see any flagged there. We're moving towards Grimes Lane. Okay, I don't see any flagged near Grimes Lane. Moving on. We have a large patch just east of the MBTA station on the north side of Foster Street. In this area, it looks like a smaller area across from the MBTA station on Foster Street. And I guess one more patch before we get to screen froze here. Hold on just a sec. Oh boy. Okay, so then moving to Balsam Lane, kind of the end of the project. Let's see if we have any Japanese. Oh yeah, so one more patch here on the south side of Foster Street, moving towards Balsam Lane. So those are the major areas of the Japanese knotweed. Any questions about the Japanese knotweed before we move on to the other species?
I think
I'm wondering
Yeah, go ahead.
if, yeah, thank you. So you're pointing out all these places. Are you noting all the ones that are outside the limit of work, or are they straddling the line? I'm not quite sure.
Well,
What-
each that I mentioned, they in fact they overlap the line. So there's a portion inside the project limits, and then in some cases, a significant portion outside of the project limits.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was wondering.
And Aaron, are you going to give us, when you're done with this, a treatment area square footage when you've noted these numerous sites, a total number?
We can certainly do that. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, so let me proceed to the next invasive species. Apologize, there's quite a few here. Asiatic bittersweet. It looks like the treatment protocol recommended is a foliar treatment, small stems of tricloper, cut stems for the large stems of tricloper or glyphosate. So I believe the foliar treatment is a backpack unit that has a sprayer, and then the cut stem is a method where they cut the stem of the plant and they dab some of the herbicide on the actual individual plant stem. And so that Asiatic bittersweet treatment is recommended from June to October. And let me just point out the major areas where that's found. Okay, so right here on Foster Street, near the intersection of Taylor Street, we have a fairly long area of low density bittersweet inside the project limits. Continuing on, we have medium density Asiatic bittersweet. It looks like at the frontage of 300 Foster Street, just inside the project limits, south side of Foster Street. Mixed Asiatic bittersweet just across from that location at the frontage of, I believe that's, just a sec, let me get the address there. That is, oh, 305 Foster Street, sorry. Yes, the frontage of 305. Moving on, Asiatic bittersweet is also found. Continuing also on the next sheet, that's still 305 Foster Street in the project area, just on the north side of Foster Street. Another patch here. Same property, that's quite a large frontage, but a separate patch. Continuing on east. Another area where we find it, 295 Foster Street frontage. That's on the north side of Foster Street, and then across the street, looks like 284 Foster Street, or the parcel adjacent to it is that 286, I believe. Another spot on 277 Foster Street, the frontage, where it meets the public road layout. So quite a bit here. And again, between Bulkley Road and the Route 2 overpass on the south side, Asiatic bittersweet. And again, we see some near the railroad track crossing on Grimes Lane. Along Grimes Lane itself, near Foster Street. Looks like a little bit of the frontage of the MBTA lot. And finally, just across from Balsam Lane on Foster Street. So that's about the frontage of 245 Foster Street. So that's the story with the Asiatic bittersweet. Any questions about that species before we move on to the next? And I apologize, it's fairly lengthy, but
That's okay. Aaron, if you could, can you go back to the list of all the invasives at the part of your presentation?
yes.
So I'm curious, because this is so vast and diverse, if the commission were to go out, are all these species and areas noted through flagging, so that the commissioners could be able to walk down each road and see what has to happen for applications?
Not currently, but we could certainly make that happen. We could also,
Commissioners, I pose that to you. What are your thoughts? Because there can be multiple invasives in certain areas. How would you like to handle the scope of this? And you're all on mute.
I guess before we get too far into that, what are the potential consequences of MDOT's conversation or whatever is going on? And I guess maybe I don't want to waste your time or our time if you have a conversation with your client this week and ultimately they decide to go a different route and this gets pulled completely. Do you have any sort of, you kind of hinted that there's a conversation happening, but is there any sort of clarity on what that might mean for this?
I mean, my best sense of it is that due to scheduling concerns, that the contractor may proceed with many of the invasives using non-herbicidal methods, but there may be a few that the MassDOT landscaping section determines can only be effectively treated with herbicides. So I have my gut feeling is that there may be a few left that we may still need to ask for, even if it's reduced.
And at that point, Aaron, we would still request to go out on site. Commissioners, do you agree with that? Or this is an amendment?
Sarah,
Yep.
if the commission wanted areas flagged where there's invasive species, would you just be looking for areas within the 100-foot buffer zone? Or if there's riverfront 200 feet where there's invasives, or do you want to see the whole stretch?
Commissioners, what are your thoughts on that?
I think any jurisdictional area would be helpful.
Okay.
So Aaron, this way we keep the ball rolling for you. I don't think that we're in a position tonight to say yay or nay, although I defer to the commissioners here. I think the scope of this does warrant, a walk on those streets. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree.
I think we need some more clarity on what the scope is. And I appreciate that you've had somebody delineate them and they know what's there and what the potential treatments are, but I'm very hesitant to say, yep, yes to all of this and only use it if you think you need to. I want a much more specific, clear schedule on what's going to be done.
Right, and we haven't even had a discussion on dosing and proper methodology as well. So, Aaron, does that make sense? We recognize that we want to hear you, but we also know this job site quite well, and do want to keep this going forward. So, my proposal would be to, if there's someone that is available to do a walkthrough with some of the commissioners and obviously the agent, what are your thoughts, Aaron, on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could certainly meet that request. Certainly and especially if MassDOT is insistent upon herbicidal methods for certain invasives and kind of narrow down which ones can be treated with just mechanical means or must be, in MassDOT's view, treated with herbicides. So we can certainly meet the requests. I've written them down. And so, but as far as the walkthrough goes, would you prefer to have them flagged and led, or would you want them flagged so that you could perform your own walkthroughs, or both?
I think, guided is always more beneficial. And after listening to what MassDOT is going to say or not say, we're happy to wait until that conclusion has been put forward before you go out and flag as well, because it may be that there's just targeted areas, but I could be speaking out of turn. Commissioners, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that was exactly my thoughts, Sarah. I don't think we have them go through all of this. This is a very significant amount by the sounds of it. And if it comes down to most of it just being mechanically pulled and only a few select areas requiring herbicides, I just assume that we look at those.
So Aaron, we meet again on June 10th. With your permission, we'd like to continue to the 10th. And if you could have communication with Tim to see if you have any updates on that.
Certainly.
How do we feel about that?
Sarah, maybe this is beyond the scope of the conversation now, but are we talking about removing all of the invasive species, even beyond the limit of work?
No,
or having some provision to do that? I mean, it seems self-defeating to pull them out up to the line only to have them grow back.
All right, Aaron, I'll let you answer that.
I understand the concern. The proposal was not to provide treatment beyond the limits of work. And the main reason for that is that the project has certain temporary easements on abutting properties and so forth. So we would not be able to kind of renegotiate those property easements all along the Foster Tree corridor in order to work on those adjacent properties to eradicate the adjacent species. So that would be setting the bar really. That would provide a really substantial complication for the project.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that, Aaron. That was very helpful. Any commissioners have any questions? So I think, Aaron, with your permission, we'd like to go ahead and move this forward to June 10th.
Okay.
Aaron, do you want to talk about the second part of the request, the catch basins?
If I may, that'd be great. The second request, and I'll make this as quick as I can. We originally had 5 proposed leaching catch basins in the project area on Foster Street. These are 6-foot deep structures that were attached to the back of a traditional catch basin, and they infiltrate water into the ground up to a point, and then they flow. They have a relief mechanism to flow back into the stormwater main after the ground is saturated around them. However, those structures require 2 feet of dry area below the bottom of the 6-foot structure. And what we found during the test pits when we started construction was that the 5 locations we had envisioned to provide this extra groundwater recharge and infiltration, all of them had groundwater that was too high to install these structures. We weren't able to do the test pits during design because some of them would have been fairly disruptive to Foster Street, and digging a big pit next to the road, or in some cases in the existing road. So unfortunately, we found out rather late that the maximum extent practical that we were trying to meet was not as much as we had hoped. So we did find one location, a new location. It's actually just west of Balsam Lane, where the groundwater was something like 8.5 feet deep enough for us to put at least one leach and catch basin to infiltrate some of the stormwater runoff that goes into this catch basin. Briefly, the way it works: this is a traditional deep sump catch basin. This is going to flow to the drainage manhole. This pipe is actually at an elevation where water is going to flow to this chamber. This is the infiltrating leach and catch basin, and infiltrate into the ground up until a point when there's saturation. The stormwater will flow back to the drainage manhole and then out to the stormwater main for overflow. And so this is the one spot where we got good test pit results. It's outside of the 100-foot buffer, about 150 feet west of Grimes Lane on Foster Street. And so the request is for permission to reduce the number of leach and catch basins due to high groundwater from 5 to 1, in the one being in this location.
Wow. Aaron, I don't know how long you've been on this project, but since concept and delivery for plans, we've always said this is a very, very wet site, and we took great precautions to try and make sure that this was going to be a successful project. And I'm very fearful to go from 5 to 1. I'm happy you have 1, but I would like to hear the other commissioners.
That's a big change. So what were you going to do to alleviate the places you took away the catch basins?
Well, unfortunately, with the high groundwater, there isn't a practical way for us to infiltrate additional water into the ground. That when the groundwater is already that high. I would add that it was noted during the permitting process that these leach and catch basins they're not a solution. They're not effective at the high rain events. That's not really what they're effective at. So it doesn't change the project's ability to handle stormwater runoff during the high events. This was never really a solution for that. It was really just to get meet the stormwater standards at a maximum extent practical, provide some more groundwater recharge. But with the groundwater as high as it is at the site, it seems that groundwater recharge might be something that's not lacking in this area. And so, unfortunately, this looks like the maximum extent practical that we can provide for this redevelopment project.
So do you meet the standards now, or you do not meet the standards now?
We did not. We met to the maximum extent practical for a redevelopment project.
You'd have to refresh my memory on the peer review for the stormwater that went through, if we went through these areas.
We did in response to commission comments, we did model the stormwater, particularly in this area, and showed that there was a minimal increase of stormwater runoff due to the project. and minimal impact on the wetland that's here near 242 Foster Street, the intersection of Grimes Lane and Foster Street. I don't believe we had a peer review at that time, but we did do some extra analysis on behalf of commission questioning.
Thank you for, I couldn't remember. Okay. Commissioners, thoughts, questions for Aaron?
Yeah, I hate to say, kind of, it is what it is. I almost wish that these hadn't been presented to us in the first place, because it kind of got those expectations that we were going to receive some additional infiltration prior to doing any sort of explorations out there.
And then how do we know along that point, Kyle, how do we know that if they found this one fairly, advantageous that has extra cover, how do we know that they've done their due diligence to look for other areas?
Yeah, I mean,
to some extent, we have to take their word for it.
Yeah, and I mean, in just common generality of the landscape there, this is the highest point of the project, right up by Balsam Lane. So it makes sense that groundwater will be deeper here, and it's going to be more shallow as you work your way towards the MBTA station and into those resource areas. I don't know that I'm questioning the truthfulness of what was found. It makes sense to me, and as like you said, Sarah, we knew this area had issues with water in the first place, right? And so maybe even if you had said, if we thought a little bit harder when they first said this and said, oh, these structures are 8 feet tall, it would have been, somebody should have kind of been like, wait a minute, we have these resource areas here that are always wet, and we want to dig 8 feet.
How close to the groundwater are you? How much more room did you need?
Well, in this location, the groundwater is deeper than 8.5 feet.
Right, but the other places, though.
Oh, they varied between as shallow as 4 feet. So, between 4 and 8 feet. So
I was wondering if you couldn't build up the grade, if you will, to make essentially like some homeowners do for their septic. It wouldn't be a big mound because you could spread it out over a bigger space, but can you build up somewhere else in order to fit the drainage?
I guess my question is it better to have something that's smaller, even though it's not as effective, versus zero?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have shallower structures for this purpose that I'm aware of. The other issue with building up is that we would have to. Right now, this is a gravity system, so I'm just seeing a complication with getting the water up in elevation from the street and from the traditional catch basin.
I'm not talking this spot. I'm talking at one of the other spots that you found won't work. Is there one that was
the other 5
borderline that if you built up the grade, now it's no longer unfeasible?
But it's still the same. You're still having to go work with gravity, right? Like,
yeah,
you can use this as the example, but it's the same premise at all of the.
It's the same premise, but if you're building up the grade and you grade it in such a fashion that you're the required distance over the groundwater and you made everything point toward it, I'm trying to find a creative solution.
Oh, no, I appreciate the thought. I have a feeling that's going to make, for example, we wouldn't be able to change the profile elevation of the road at this point,
Okay.
or raise the road, and just getting water to flow up to a new elevation at a different. I understand not this location, but
Yeah.
It's going to prevent.
I was suggesting raising the elevation of the road at 1 or 2 spots. If you only needed another foot or 2 feet, that's not much of an elevation increase.
I think, Aaron, when you come back on the 10th, I think you're hearing some questions here to just kind of set some worry aside that you've done some alternative analysis on these other inferior locations. So.
Okay,
we're going to go ahead and keep moving on we've got a lot of meetings tonight. Commissioners have any other questions for Aaron?
Aaron, real quick, just to clarify, only because Ed kind of asked this. Although you're asking to remove these infiltration catch basins, there's still traditional catch basins at those locations, correct?
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
It's now 8:16. We're going to open up the 8 o'clock public meeting. Request for determination of applicability, 8 Cricket Lane, removal of 6 trees. Tim?
Yep, I'm promoting Deborah.
Does she have a plan or pictures or locus of where we are on Cricket?
If not, I will pull one up.
And have you been out to this site, Tim?
I have not.
Good evening.
I think you might be muted.
I've never been to one of these meetings, so if someone could prompt me, that'd be helpful. I'll do my job and try to stay on the screen.
Okay, thank you. If you could just introduce yourself to the commission with your name and where you live, that would be fantastic.
Okay. My name is Deborah Stevens. I live at 8 Cricket Lane in Littleton. And I'm Linda Turner, and I live at Cricket Lane in Littleton.
Okay. Just so you know, you have to speak up sometimes when you're on Zoom so we can all hear you.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us why you're here joining us this evening?
Yeah, we have, we have several hundred trees on the property, but there are 6 that we're talking about that are making us feel uncomfortable. One's been damaged by lightning. They're all old growth and ready, virtually dying. But we had an arborist come out, and they're scaring us because it feels like they're going to fall on the house at any time. I don't know when that's going to be. I can't do that, but we're looking to have them professionally removed. Did I speak loud enough?
Yep, that was perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Do you happen to have pictures that you'd like to share with us, or Tim, do you have pictures on file?
I can share my screen of the plan.
Okay, great.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to show my artwork. It's terrible.
It is appreciated.
Thank you. So the 2, I don't know if you want me to explain, but
Sure.
the 2 in the front facing Spectacle Pond are 2 pine trees. We measured best we could around the trees. Out back, there are 4, well, there's hundreds, like I said, of trees, but there are 4 we're looking to bring down as well that are either listing. We lost a few this year further out back, but that's why we're trying to remove them. And then we'll replant river birch to replace them. I don't want to talk too much. Let's see. What else could I talk about?
And you stated that you've met with an arborist?
Yeah, from Tree Masters. We provided a letter. Tim, you have that, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
And his conclusion was the same as yours. There's 6 trees?
Yeah, there's 6 that we're seeking to get taken down.
Okay. Commissioners, Tim, you have not been out on site?
I have not. Nope.
Okay. So historically, what we would do is we would have the agent go out on site, or commissioners. We can do a site walk, or 1 or 2 can converse with you to set up a time, just to basically validate what the arborist has said based on our experience, that that's accurate. I see in your notes that you're not going to grind the stumps down. You're just going to cut them flush.
Yeah, I cut them flush or a little bit up just to maintain. I don't want any erosion
Right.
because
Thank
the
you.
tree has to go.
Yep, that's a great concern for us, so you've done that. Commissioners, questions for applicants?
What size of river birch are you? You're taking out some fairly hefty trees, I assume.
The ones I purchased that I have waiting on the porch are, I don't know, 4 feet. I think they're 4 feet.
Okay.
Fast growing. That's why I selected them.
Mhm.
So typically what we do is we would ask that these be monitored for a minimum of 2 years. It's usually 3 years. So sadly, not all of them make it. So then we would ask you to do a replanting as well. Commissioner,
Yeah,
thoughts
biggest,
on the selection?
biggest concern is the beavers, I think. Taking them out, yeah.
That is a concern.
Okay,
Tim, what would you like to do?
I could probably get out there and take a look if you'd like. If you guys want, we could coordinate something where some commissioners come out with me. I don't mind.
Yep, or if you just bring back photos for us.
Yeah, I can do that too.
Just let commissioners know when you're going out. So
Yeah.
typically we would have someone go and look at these. We do meet again on June 10th. So at that point, we can give you more specific feedback. But this sounds as though it's in order with hazards based on the communication that you've given us.
all right, thank you, I appreciate it. We're just looking to do the right thing and be safe.
Yep. Any other commissioners have questions?
Yeah, and Tim, if you do like a midday, if you're doing that during the workday, that tends to be better for my schedule. So
Okay.
whenever if you want some company to have a commissioner look at it with you, just let me know when you're head over there and see if they're
Yeah.
available.
Sure. Yeah,
I can do that as well.
Any times work better for you guys, like specifically?
Just
Okay,
need to
guys.
know ahead of time.
Okay. Perfect. Makes it
Yeah,
easy.
it's the same thing with the homeowner too. I guess if there's a better time for you.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
let us know.
we're pretty flexible. We can reschedule some things, so
Okay,
I'll work with you, Tim, to sort it out.
Sure.
great. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Okay. It's 8:24. We're going to go ahead to the 8:15 notice of intent, 76 Hartwell Ave, parcel ID R17-7-D, expansion of a garage and widening of driveway.
All right, Bruce and Jonas, I'm promoting you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bruce.
All right, folks. You all set for us here?
Yep.
Okay, good evening. Bruce Ringwall from GPR, Goldsmith Press and Ringwall. Also, Jonas Bellini is with me this evening. We are representing the homeowners at 76 Hartwell Ave. This is can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is just under an acre property, 42,000 square feet. The front half of the property is developed. The rear half of the property is woodland and slopes uphill, creating a little valley in the backyard. There is an existing house with a couple of existing sheds in the back, a pool, a fenced-in yard for their dog, and then the edge of the wetlands. There's a swale that runs on down through here, across the back, and eventually becomes a wetland further south on the property, further south along Hartwell Ave. The applicant would like to expand their garage and your driveway. Much of this work is all of this work is in existing disturbed area. Much of it is already impervious area. This addition would add 420 square feet of impervious area within the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot buffer zone. It would allow them to enlarge their garage and some living space overhead. There is an existing Allen block retaining wall or ideal block retaining wall along the side of the drive. That would be transferred over to the edge over here. We would also be moving the existing walkway over as well into the side yard, and then tie back into the existing walkway that currently comes into the side, tying it back goes into the pool deck area in the back of the house. There are planters that exist. The existing planter along the edge of the garage right now, which you can only see portions of underneath here, it looks just like this, would be transported out to the edge of the extension of the garage so that there'd be additional planting in that area there. The plantings in these areas would be done with native plants. And it's really in a nutshell. We're proposed erosion control starting at the edge of the fence here and bringing it up along the side so that there's no erosion down into the back or into the 50-foot buffer zone. And that's it in a nutshell. I turn it over to you folks for any questions and get you back on schedule here.
Quick question on the flagging, Bruce. Are those recent wetlands flags?
Yes, they are. They were flagged by Matt Morrow in, I think, early spring, late winter.
Okay. And Tim, you've not been out on site, correct?
I have been out on site, albeit when I was out on site, there was a different project idea. So it was going to be in a different location of the property. So my evaluation of the wetlands was more so towards the, if this plan is pointing north, towards the northwestern side of the site.
If
Okay.
I may, Madam Chair, the sheds here, this is actually two sheds adjacent to one another. This shed was going to be replaced in kind with a shed that opened on the end, and they wanted to build the driveway on the planned north side here back into this shed. And after having some conversation with them and all, they said, well, one other idea we had was to expand the house. And I said, that'd be much better. You're all in an area that's disturbed, and a lot of it's impervious already. And we're staying further away, and we're not going into roughly 50-foot buffer line in that area as well. This channel area here is piped across the neighbor's property and piped across this first portion, and then picks up and runs from here on down as open, and then a couple lots down further, it's piped again. And then much further down the road, it opens up into wetlands.
And wetlands flags 2, is that an elevation or is that a distance? I can't see what that one says. To the right of, yeah, right there.
This is 56
Okay.
feet, going from here to the erosion control is 56 feet.
Is there any drainage coming off the proposed addition coming down into that swale or wet area?
No. We're going to try and collect it in drip edge along the edge here.
We're going to try.
Well, it's going to come down, and I don't know if the architect's going to put a gutter on or if it's just going to be a drip edge. If it's a drip edge, you go in. If it's a gutter, we can put it into a dry well.
Okay.
One of the two will be used.
Did
So
you
if
say
it's going to be a
this
dry well, we would want it on the plan.
Hmm.
Okay,
All right.
commissioners, questions?
Did you say this was already impervious, meaning where the garage is going right now is already hot tub?
Not hot top. There's a brick walkway that comes down through here. And this portion right in here is a wider brick drive than the garage area. This is a retaining wall that comes down along the edge. This walkway through here. So in the process of doing this and moving this all over, there's an additional 420 square feet in the buffer zone of impervious area.
When we've had other projects, water off the roof has been a very noted conversation. So I would assume that you'd need to address that here somewhere, somehow. So,
Like I said, you can make it a condition that we either put it into a dry well that we stay outside the 500-foot zone, or we put it into a drip edge. Again, I don't know if the current house has gutters or if it's just drip edge. And I don't know what the architect has planned.
okay.
Bruce, do you actually have any photos that you'd like to share with us of the current site?
Sure, we could definitely do that.
Thank you.
You bet. See if I can do this without.
While you're doing that, Bruce, I'll ask a question. What's the foundation going to be for this addition?
I'm sorry?
The foundation? Is there a new foundation?
There's an existing foundation now, and it will have just a frost wall foundation go in. There'll be slab on grade.
So excavation will be taking place to put that frost wall in.
That's correct.
Okay.
Going to be outside the buffer area. Did this photo come up on the screen?
Not yet.
It did not.
Did
I'm
not?
still looking
Okay,
at
I
the
got to
plan.
stop sharing and reshare.
There we
There you
go.
Okay, so this is the driveway. As you can see, it's wider than the garage in this area in here. So that's really not widening in the driveway by much on this side. All but a couple feet in front of the garage are outside the buffer zone. This, as you can see, has a salt box roof right now. It looks like there's a gutter in the front over here and in this area. So I would assume that they would be adding another gutter on that side. Given that, we'll just put a drip edge, put a recharge chamber underneath the planter. Let's see if I can change
You
photos.
already have a garage. What are they doing to it?
They're widening it. It's just very small garage, and they have another vehicle that they need to store. And so rather than having it a whole driveway going down the other side of the yard,
Mhm.
further back, they're adding to the garage on the side.
Okay.
I'm going to try and change photos here. I never know with the webinar whether that comes up. Did that come up, or did I have to stop and share again?
It did
We're
not.
still seeing the original photo.
Okay, I'm going to stop and share again. It'll be a process. We'll get through it. So there is a gutter on this side, comes down and it discharges here. Like I said, we have no problem taking that roof and putting it into a recharge underneath the planter. I'm going to stop and share one more time to get us to the next photo. This is the existing planter on the side of the garage. We'd be moving it over on the side of the next piece.
It hasn't shared, Bruce.
Ah, man, oh man. I thank you for that. Gotta have it right there.
Got it.
There we go. This is the existing planter on the side of the garage. This all would be just kind of picked up and moved over, well, dismantled and reinstalled. And stop. We're gonna get better at this, I promise.
So most of the work you're doing is between 50 and 100 feet from the wetlands, then it sounds like.
All of it's between 56 and 100. That is correct. And this is the walkway, stone, rather than mulch in this area because they're getting some better recharge out of it, apparently. This photo did come through, right?
Yes.
Okay. This area here, this will all be behind the garage, and then the walkway will come in on this side and then turn a 90 and go through the existing entrance into the gate around the pool area. Let me just take a gander here. I think I got.
Bruce, in that first photo, it looked close to the adjacent property. Are variances required for any setbacks?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It's none whatsoever. We meet the 15-foot plus setback on the side. And this next photo, I stop and share again one more time.
Is there any concern about the water? I mean, there's gonna be more water going down toward the neighbor than there is today, I assume, unless maybe I'm wrong on that.
Not thinking that there is, no. Especially if we have gutters right now, and that gutter in the front discharges out onto this area and recharges into the stone. If we put it into a leaching chamber underneath this whole area, then we're going to be eliminating that issue altogether. So, you know, as I said, there's a max of 420 square feet of additional impervious area.
Do you have thoughts of what you have for soils underneath that for that recharge?
I don't have the soils map up on this site right now. But I know across the street, and there's good sandy soils in a couple areas, so I have a feeling that it should be pretty decent. And we would have a pop-up emitter to the thing, so we'd get a fair amount of storage as well as recharge in, and then pop up in you know, in the stone landscaping, you know, outside the 56 area, because this fence is at 56 feet. You know, we'd be popping up.
Bruce, I don't know the last time you were out on site. Is there, I'm just curious with all the rain that we've had, is there standing water in that swale?
I do not know.
Okay.
I doubt it, because there's a fair amount of topography change going along there.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been out on site. Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners, what would you like to do? Wetlands flags needs to be verified.
Hmm.
And then if people would like to see the site.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You want to throw some dates out there for site visit? Don't know.
Like I said before, I just need to know ahead of time.
All right. Who would like to throw a date out?
We have nice light evenings these days, provided it's not raining.
Okay. Ed, do you want to throw a date out? I know
I was just looking.
you're
Yeah,
available.
My calendar is such that I need it to be after work, but I work from home, so that makes it a little easier.
Yep.
Yeah, we already have a couple tomorrow, so next week looks like would be
Okay.
most any day next week, I would say. Yeah, as long as it's, you know, if we can make it 5 o'clock, that would be great. But
Okay.
all depends on what everybody else needs.
All right. Anyone want to throw in a date for next week as we start the month of June?
Don't remind me.
I could do the 2nd or the 5th.
So why don't we do June 5th at 5 o'clock? Does that work for anyone?
I might be able to make that too, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
that might be one I can make as well.
Tim, can you send out a reminder? Bruce, I'm assuming that would
Yep.
work?
Right now, I think it does.
Okay.
Sounds
Fantastic.
good.
Bruce, it looks like that's somewhat straightforward. If you're not able to make it, if you could ask the owner if we could have permission to walk that line.
You bet.
Okay, great. We meet again on June 10th, sorry, excuse me. We will see you on June 10th and before that on the sidewalk on June 5th.
Sounds awesome.
Okay,
And
great.
as of very early this morning, we did get a DEP number for this project, so
Right, do you want to share that with us?
I'll send it over to Tim in the morning.
Yeah, I got it. They did not have any comments.
Okay, great.
I won't send it to Tim in the morning.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, have a great week. We'll see you on next Thursday evening.
Yep.
You too, Bruce.
Good night now.
8:41, let's open the 8:30 public meeting. Request for determination of applicability, MBTA, Keolis Vegetation Management Plan.
Hey guys, I'm so late. Carl here.
Hi, Carl.
Hey, Carl.
All right, I'm on Hegan Island and the internet is awful.
Oh no.
But
All
the
right.
view is beautiful.
But the view is worth it.
Yes.
Okay, Tim, who's here to talk about this?
Yep, we have Matt Donovan here to talk to this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Donovan from Benesh, here to represent Keolis. Can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Yes.
Perfect. So we submit this RDA to your commission to confirm the accuracy of the maps used for vegetation management along the right-of-way. The RDA is submitted to your commission every 5 years, required by CMR 11, and it's required to get these determinations before submitting the 5-year vegetation management plan to Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. The vegetation management plan is designed to manage and control vegetation necessary to keep the railroad in operation safe. There are regulations in place to keep the sensitive areas protected throughout the duration of this plan. These can be found in CMR 11 as well as our vegetation management plan. The maps we provide you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan, but often dictate where mechanical methods will be used due to chemical restrictions. There are 2 main chemical applications each year, one in the May to June timeframe that targets the roadbed, and one in the August-September timeframe that targets the brush in the areas adjacent to the roadbed. The sensitive areas that are marked with blue and yellow on the maps are restricted from the brush program and will only receive the roadbed application. So that's what I'll focus on, as it's the only chemical program taking place in the sensitive areas of your jurisdiction. However, if there are questions about the brush program, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Do you want to go ahead and share your screen so you can go through those areas and the different hues of blue?
Yes. Sorry about that. Meant to do that right off, but yeah, so here are the maps, and I can scroll through them towards the end. If there's any areas and
take a second just to acclimate the commissioners where you're referencing.
yeah, so this is the commuter rail right of way. That's marked with the railroad tracks here going through your town. And the blue and yellow zones, as I'm about to go over, signify different areas for spraying and levels of vegetation management due to the restrictions that I just mentioned in CMR 11.
Where's the train station itself? Way farther away, okay.
I'm not sure. Do you see it anywhere?
That's okay. Oh. I didn't see Foster Street anywhere. So.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't mean to distract from your.
Okay. So the roadbed application is performed by a spray track that drives on the track, and is equipped with nozzles on the backside that are located about 18 inches above the ground. It sprays the solution directly down onto the track. The truck has arms that have nozzles on the arms that target the shoulders of the roadbed up to 12 feet from the center line of track. The certified applicator is always accompanied by an environmental monitor familiar with site conditions and equipped with these maps, instructing the operator as necessary. The applicator has the ability to turn off all the nozzles, or in many cases, just the side nozzles where it's targeting the shoulders where it may be getting close to the buffer zone of a sensitive area. And it can do that with the flip of a switch. The yellow zones will never receive any treatment to the shoulders. However, it may still receive treatment directly down onto the ties. And that's done at the environmental monitor and in applicator's discretion to stay in conformance with the regulations. The light blue zones typically represent being between 10 and 100 feet of a sensitive area, and these will typically receive the full roadbed treatment. That will be done at a 1 year minimum interval based in conformance with the regulations. The dark blue zones are more so DEP and water supply areas. These will receive the roadbed treatment every 2 years. In these blue and yellow zones, due to the limited spray zone, limited chemicals, more effort is put into controlling the vegetation with physical and mechanical measures, especially in the areas adjacent to the track that won't receive the brush program. The chemicals each year will always be coming from the right-of-way approved sensitive area material list provided by Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, and we do include that mixture in the yearly operational plan that we send to your commission every year. So we are seeking a positive two-way determination to confirm the maps, as well as a negative determination for the work that's included in the vegetation management plan. So I'd be happy to look at any spots in particular or answer any questions that the commission may have.
So it's been a long time, and I would say the majority of these commissioners have never gone on those tracks to kind of look at this. This particular act started in 1987, but can you tell us changes from either last year to this year or from when this permit started? What was it, 5 years ago?
Yes.
So
And
are there certain areas that either treatment is not working and so the area has expanded?
no, it's been effective. They have this down where they do have to manage in the yellow and dark blue zones where they're not able to do the brush spray. They do have to actively fight the encroaching vegetation on the areas adjacent to the track with mechanical measures. It's always easier without having to deal with the sensitive areas where they can just do the annual spray in those areas. So I would say that's the biggest challenge in these areas. But none of the markings have changed since 5 years ago, and none of the work itself has changed either.
Can you remind me, what are the wind parameters so that you don't have the float? What is the wind when it gets to be too high, they can't spray?
I don't know exactly what the speed is, but there definitely are regulations that the applicator needs to stay in conformance with, and that is a licensed applicator in the state of Massachusetts. There's rain; they won't be spraying in the rain. There's weather restrictions that they need to stay in conformance with. And what Keolis does is they'll schedule so many extra days. So if they're planning on it taking 8 days to do the entire system, they'll maybe schedule 12 or 15 days to account for having to skip a few days due to the weather.
How are the average homeowners notified?
What was that?
How are the average homeowners that are in proximity to the tracks notified?
That would just be we send certified mail to the Board of Health, Conservation Commission, and Select Board's office every year, and the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources via certified mail before any application takes place. And there also is a legal ad placed in the newspaper.
Okay, so the average homeowner doesn't know about it.
You don't actually tell the homeowners
No.
unless they happen to be reading the paper you happen to put it in?
Yeah, or if they go to their local.
Seems kind of cold, don't you think?
Or dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're staying in conformance with these regulations, is to offer as much protection as possible.
And has the chemicals or the dosage changed in your experience in the last couple of years? How would we know what areas are receiving higher dosages?
For the actual roadbed and brush program, it's always the same dosage. As far as if they go back to a area again, if it needs a touch-up program, that would just be happening in the non-sensitive areas, because in the blue and yellow zones, it is only allowed to receive that one treatment. As far as if the chemicals have changed or if the doses have changed, not significantly. The right of way approved sense of area material list by Mass Department of Agricultural Resources has changed slightly as they've added or subtracted a chemical here and there.
And is that
Well-
in our filing? So from the last 5 years, we know what the change has been?
Yeah, well, the link is in the filing where it links you to the MDAR.
Specific to our tracks or just random throughout the Commonwealth?
We use the same mixture for the entire system. All 103 towns, it will receive the same roadbed treatment and the same brush treatment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions? Sorry, I've been hogging all the questions.
This sounds like something they're going to do with or without us, so
Well, that's the railroad.
that is true.
Commissioners, any questions? This is your time to, if you want to go out and see anything or review it, this is your opportunity.
Yeah, I remember getting out to seeing this was not the easiest task. Well, COVID didn't help. That was when this whole process happened, but I know we tried to get Amy out there, and I don't know that she was ever able to because of those restrictions and needing to be on a rail and certain certifications or whatnot, who she had to be accompanied with and what she was allowed to do.
I've been.
You're lucky.
No, frightening.
The only part of this that feels iffy is the 12-foot wings that you talked about. The stuff on the track itself, on the gravel of the track, I don't have a big issue with that. But having the booms out 12 feet on each side seems disconcerting. There's no way for you to control where that is going to go. You didn't say you don't do it near homes. The width. I mean, I got the sense, and maybe I'm wrong, that this is pretty much you put the 12-foot booms out on each side. You spray the outsides and you spray the track all as it's driving along. And if for some reason he has to shut it off, he can. But the goal, I hear, is drive along and get it done. Am I accurate?
You're accurate. The 12 feet is the roadbed itself is 12 feet wide, the actual structure of the track. So I guess 12 feet might sound like a lot, but that is the ballasted area. Whereas the brush program, they'll be spraying, and that's always going to be sprayed straight down from 18 inches above the ground. The brush program is where they're spraying more so like 20 and 30 feet off into the distance adjacent to the track.
Okay.
So that the 12 feet, that's just the structure of the track itself width.
So how are you protecting the homeowners from the 20 to 30 feet spray of the brush program?
Well, this is all in the right-of-way property itself is 100 feet wide in most areas, so it's not getting to the yards, but they would never spray off their property.
And that's where you said the wind, they couldn't do the brush program if it was too windy, because then that spray could go beyond where you expect it to go. Right?
Yeah, to limit the drift. That's there are regulations for.
I guess as long as you're within your right of way and don't bother the homeowners, then
Any other questions, commissioners? Feedback?
I've ridden the train often enough, and it seems like it's all in bounds.
So they're looking for a positive 2A and then adding a negative 5 with exemptions. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes, that's correct.
sound ignorant here. I have no idea what you just said.
Matt, do you want to explain that, what you're seeking?
Yeah, we would be seeking a positive 2A determination to confirm the maps, as well as a negative 5 determination with exemptions for the work included in the vegetation management plan to be exempt from an NOI.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone like to make such a motion?
I move that we approve the request for termination of applicability for MBTA Keolis vegetation management plan.
So, and they will be asking for a positive 2A to confirm the maps, and then also a -5 with exemptions, supporting their vegetation management plan and not requiring to do a notice of intent. Is that correct, Matt?
Correct.
Okay, so,
What you just said.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, roll call votes. Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Ed,
Ed Full-Time.
Carl,
Carl Malberg, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
8:57, we're gonna open the 8:45 continued public hearing, request for amended order of conditions, Forge Pond DEP 2004-0872, inclusive herbicides use and diver-assisted suction harvesting, also referred to as DASH, to treat aquatic invasive species plants. Okay.
And I will note that I have to recuse myself as a butter.
Okay, thank you. Tim, is Dave here?
Dave is here.
He is muted.
So Tim, I'm going to ask you to go ahead in the essence of time to do, if you feel comfortable doing, just an update of where we are at the moment. There was some discussion at the last meeting. Quorum was not available at that time. And so we're back seeking amended order of conditions.
Yep. So if you remember at the hybrid meeting we had a couple meetings ago, Dave Barr came in front of you guys, basically seeking approval of whether or not this can go ahead as a request for amended order conditions or an entirely new filing, and it was voted by the commission that this would go ahead as a request for an amended order of conditions.
So I know we didn't have quorum at that last meeting. I listened to the hearing. Questions on what is being requested? Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just remembering back in April, did we already vote this by chance to grant the herbicides? I thought we'd already voted on this.
Not on the herbicides, I believe. Tim, if you want to...
I'm trying to remember. You said back in April, Andrew?
Yeah, it would have been late March, early April. I seem to recall that we voted to...
I know we talked about herbicides at some point.
Dave did give a presentation of the of what he's asking for, and I'm not sure if that was the vote that you're talking about. Was it at the hybrid meeting, Andrew? Do you know?
Well, and we know that we can't do dredging anymore, and DASH falls within the dredging.
Yeah.
Can I say what was discussed at the April meeting?
Yep. Go ahead, Dave.
So on April 8th, we came with the question that Tim referred to as to whether this request needed to be a new notice of intent or if it could be an amended order of conditions for the existing conditions. And there was a vote that it could go ahead as an amended order of conditions. That was the discussion. That was a vote. I presented what we are confronted with and what we're asking for as a result of what we're confronted with. 2 weeks later, we were scheduled to have a meeting, but there was no quorum. 2 weeks ago, we started the discussion. I made another short presentation again. There was a bit of a discussion, but then the hearing got ended because there was a recusement and there were only 3 members available. So 7 weeks ago, you voted to allow this to come as an amended order of conditions, and we had a presentation then, a short presentation 2 weeks ago, but this is the first actual full hearing on it.
I see. Okay, so that vote was essentially just to allow it as an amended order. Gotcha, but not to grant the amended order.
Yeah, April 8th.
It's all coming back to me.
Sarah, you're muted.
So Dave, you specifically have some questions on algae blooms, and that would be the source of using this particular application method?
So we're asking for approval for the all but 3 of the herbicides that are approved in Massachusetts, and those herbicides are also can be used as algicides. We mostly have an issue with the rooted plants, but once in a while there have been algae blooms, so it seemed to make sense, since it's the same chemicals that are used that are approved for both, that we were asking for use as both herbicides and algicides. If the condition comes up where algae blooms are about to happen, it's necessary to move quickly, and if we have to come and do a whole process to get approval for the algicides, it would be too late to use it.
Okay.
So we're asking for the same herbicides that are approved by the Mass DAR to be approved for either one.
And commissioners, you can amend this for a shorter period of time if you prefer as well. So to kind of come back to this a year from now based on success of the application, if it's needed. Questions? Yep, go ahead, Dave.
So I would just point out that Spectacle Pond and Long Lake have had these orders of conditions in place for decades. They've been using them for a long, long time, and they just got reapproved for they just got their orders extended last year.
But you're asking for an amendment.
Yeah, I was just pointing out.
That's why I'm just throwing it out to see if that helps make it a little bit more palatable for the commissioners. You certainly don't have to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, so I would have expected that we're going to see, similar to what they've already been providing, an annual summary report of something of some kind, right? At a minimum. So, but I see what you're getting, and I think I agree that we should have some flexibility on if we agree this is the right path after X years. If it's a year and say, nope, this is not working, you got to come up with an alternative solution. I think that seems reasonable for us to keep some control.
We've listened to, everything's still changing in terms of dredging and permitting, and it seems like a moving target.
Yeah, having said that, I've been to a couple of those meetings and listening to Mass DER and the agricultural. They are very pro these applications right now. They've presented a lot of data, a lot of case studies that have been going on for multiple years now, that seem to be benefiting their areas. So I would have been a lot more skeptical had I not sat in on those meetings, for sure, because you hear these things.
I sat in on the first one, and I thought I was very well informed.
Yeah, but if I wouldn't have done that, I would have stepped back right away and said, we're talking chemicals, right? You hear these things and putting it in your water, you say no right away. So I think if anybody else has time and hasn't listened in on those, it is very beneficial and much more comfortable.
Right. And Kyle, that's thoughtful as a reminder. Tim, it might be nice to send along to the commissioners some of those audio recordings.
Yeah, I can recirculate that. The first meeting, I'm not sure. I went back to see if I could find the second meeting, and I don't believe it was recorded, but I can do another. I'll double check that.
Okay. Commissioners, where would we like to go with this? So they're circling back, they're looking for an amended order.
So it's amending to use herbicides / algicides. Is there a second part to the amendment? Was there some sort of mechanical removing that's being included as well now, David?
Well, it's not allowed right now.
That's why I'm asking, because I thought there was a two-part
It is.
ask
It
on this.
says herbicide use and dash, but dash is not allowed at the moment.
by
So
us or by
the
state?
request was to approve it. We wouldn't be using it until we have the dredging permit.
And is that something that's happening in the near future? Or is there a permit
It's
request?
underway. The Clean Lakes Committee is working on getting dredging permits for Spectacle Pond, Long Lake, and Lake Matawanaki.
And this, what we call dash, diver assisted suction harvesting, falls under that same category, Dave, correct?
Tim checked with DEP and they said that they consider it to be, yes, falling under the same.
So you're just trying to do this preemptively, that if you can get a dash permit, you already have our support.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
I think that works. Maybe make it subject to getting, approval for that. And
Yeah, and so I don't want to keep belaboring this, but this was something that we had already approved in our order of conditions, with the condition that if and when they decide to use that, they needed to present it to us, correct?
Come back again, yes.
Okay. So I guess what we're looking for is a motion to amend.
I will add that Natural Heritage did get back to Dave, and that they their stance was that it will not have any adverse effects.
Okay.
perfect.
And Dave, I did read through everything you said, but and I don't remember now. I read earlier in the week, or last week. Did you have like a dosing schedule, a time schedule, and when this would take place? That seems to be one of the things that we're trying to be more aware of and controlled.
Are you asking about the herbicides that we would be doing this summer?
Correct.
We have funding that's good until the end of June, so we would be planning to do it next month.
And you're still going to notify the commission when you're doing that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Okay, commissioners? Doc?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to issue an order of condition. An amended order of conditions for Forge Pond, DEP file number 204-872, to include the use of herbicides and the diver assisted suction harvesting, subject to the reporting as outlined previously.
How long do you want to make that for? 1 year or 3 years?
I'll make that for 1 year.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ed.
This question?
Oh, sure.
I'm just wondering why this lake is being treated differently than the others.
We haven't had applications from others, to my knowledge.
Sorry?
Have we had applications from others yet that have asked for amendment?
Spectacle Pond, so in terms of the use of herbicides, Spectacle Pond and Long Lake both have used herbicides for decades. Like I said, they already have existing orders of conditions for this that have no reporting, no restrictions.
It's a great question.
And they came through the commission.
Yeah.
I believe those orders originated back in the early 2000s. I could be wrong. I believe they've originated back in the early 2000s and they have been extended since.
Right.
But I think Dave makes a good point that the next time that they're due for extension, we need to be taking a little closer look at that. And
right. Yeah, no, because I want to be 100% consistent for
exactly. Yeah,
every lake.
So I totally agree. And that's so unfortunately, yeah, Dave, you've got first in mind to have stepped up to have to present to us, and I think it's very fair that they should be held to the same standards as well now.
Absolutely.
We just might not be able to do that.
All the rest will be with you at some point.
Right. It just might not be until their orders are due to be extended again.
And that's something, I know Tim doesn't have time to do that now, but that would be a healthy exercise for if we ever get an assistant to kind of pull those OOCs and see when they come up and flag them to let whoever the applicant know that there's, new rules.
They were renewed last spring.
Okay, thank you. Have we taken a roll call vote, Andrew?
Not yet, so we can go ahead and do that now. Ed?
Ed Foltz, aye.
Kyle?
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Let's see.
Carl Alberg, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah Seward, aye.
And Michael is a recusal, and myself, aye. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ayes and 1 recusal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good luck, Dave.
Good luck, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's 9:13. We're going to open up the 9 o'clock continued public hearing. Notice of intent, Blood Road, Mass DEP 204-1920. Installation of underground electrical lines, including under a stream.
Yeah, I'm promoting Brian and Josh to speak to this.
Brian Marchetti here, McCarty Engineering. Josh Tutera with Lunenburg Electric Light is also attending the meeting here tonight. So at the last hearing, we had closed with a few questions, requesting a couple modifications to the plans. And I can, if I can share my screen with you, I'll go over the specifics. All right. So we can see the screen here.
Yep.
So the revisions were minor. I just added note number 7 here and number 8. So the first question that came up was for the utility poles that we're demoing here that are within the wooded area and wetland area. So it's utility pole 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Or really 6, 7, 8, and 9 are the ones that are within the wetland area and the wooded area. What's going to happen when they remove them? So as we discussed, the utility poles are going to be cut at grade. They're not going to be pulled out of the ground. So they'll be saw cut at grade and then dragged out of the woods with a cable. So we added a note here that any disturbed areas resulting from the removal of the utility poles shall be seeded with New England Roadside Matrix Upland Seed Mix by New England Wetland Plants, Inc. at a rate of 1 pound per 1,200 square feet. Provides a broad spectrum of grasses, wildflower, and shrubs blended together as a native matrix seed mix. So we're not really anticipating much disturbance, but if there is anything from dragging the utility poles, which again is much less invasive than if we had to drive excavators out there to remove these sections of poles, there's now a note on the plan that says how that disturbed area would be repaired. The second comment was if the excavated material from the utility trench is not suitable to backfill, what are we going to do with the material? So we discussed that it would be removed from the site. So we've memorialized that on the plan in note number 8. All excess trench spoils that are not suitable for reuse within the utility trench shall be exported off-site and stored at the Littleton Electric Light and Water Department's utility yard, or shall be temporarily stockpiled on site at the location shown on this plan. All stockpiles must be protected from stormwater runoff and run on using temporary perimeter sediment barriers such as straw, wattle, or silt fence. You can see here the green area, the circle I located here in the plan, is the temporary stockpile area. It's located outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, and it is also within the existing power easement out there. So it's not within an area that's used by the farmer, as valuable real estate for his haying and farming operations. So that was the second item that was addressed and added to the plan. And then on sheet 2, we had discussed originally that there were 14 trees being removed. We proposed putting 14 back. The commission didn't think a 1-to-1 replication was adequate because of the size of the trees being removed versus what was being planted. So, without further guidance from your bylaws, we proposed basically a 3-to-1 replication. We'll plant the same 14 trees that were proposed previously. They're 2-inch diameter. What we'll also propose an additional 28 shrubs. That was discussed, doing shrubs in lieu of trees, just because the property that the work is occurring on is not owned by the Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. It's farm property, so we don't want to put trees back in, on the farmer's land that he uses for his agriculture production. So we're proposing additional 28 shrubs, and we propose 14 highbush blueberry and 14 witch hazel, which are species that are on the property and within the area of the edge of the wetlands and within the wooded area that's adjacent to where we're performing the work. So again, we're proposing an additional 28 shrubs on the site. So that was the gist of what was requested after the end of last meeting. A waiver request was also prepared initially, but it was never submitted. So I did submit the waiver request that we put together. And again, this was for work that's occurring within the 50-foot no disturbance zone in the tree room. So this was provided to Tim last week. So
I'm assuming, I haven't read the narrative on that. That's just in meeting the public interest for utility.
it is, yeah. So,
Okay.
so the reason we're here is these utilities that are located within the wetland area, they're inaccessible. It's within an area where there's been disturbances before, and it's really hard for the Littleton Electric Light Department to get in there and actually perform the repairs to keep power to the residents out here. So the plan here is in addition to that, the National Grid has also requested, and they've asked or demanded that Littleton Electric removes the utilities that cross the poles that here run underneath their existing utility easement. So utility pole 9, 10, and 11 are actually within underneath the high tension wire easement. So they've been asked to remove those poles. So the only alternative is to put it underground, and the landowner is allowed, Littleton Electric Light and Water Department, to locate the utility here on the northern side of their of Blood Road, which is outside of his agriculture area. So,
Commissioners, I know some of you were here for the last meeting to go through some of the narrative. Does anyone have any questions?
Sarah, I don't think the 28 shrubs are appropriate personally for the replacement of the trees, especially like the witch hazel. I'm just wondering, if we're putting in shrubs, why don't
Carl,
we make it like
It's
what?
on top of the 14 trees too. So they presented 14 trees initially at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And so that's on top of the, we're getting 14 trees, but it goes back to the real estate issues, not having the space.
Yeah, because the light department doesn't own the land. And so with the farmers, shrubs would be less kind of in the way. So they're replacing some of the trees. So minimum is the trees, and then they've added in based on our request to put in more, and that's where the shrubs and the witch hazel came in.
That's where we're getting to the 3-to-1, which is.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, why would you choose witch hazel? If you're putting in shrubs, why wouldn't you make them like good pollinators. At least we get some benefit.
I'm sure Brian will take any of your suggestions.
We'll as long as we can stick to those numbers, I'll give you anything you want. We propose.
All right, there you go, Carl. That's the best offer we've had all day. He'll give you whatever you want.
Because they're native species here that are on the property.
Yep.
I would just choose better pollinators. I'll leave that up to you.
Okay. If you want to make that a condition of approval, we could certainly, provide Tim with an updated list, before the plantings are done that he could review.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was a blessing.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
If not, do we have someone that would like to make a motion for this notice of intent for Blood Road?
I move that we approve the notice of intent for Blood Road, Mass DEP 204-1020, with the condition that they change out the witch hazel with better pollinators and let Tim know once that is identified.
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, roll call votes. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Ed.
Ed Full-Tie.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Carl Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Can you just let the office know when you're going to start?
Certainly. What's I guess from here, what's the timing of when you'd be able to issue the order, so we can get that recorded and get it under
Tim,
time?
your thoughts? A week? They're kind of swamped right now, but a week.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around a week. Towards the beginning of next week, I can give you an update on where we stand. But,
okay, I think within a couple of weeks we'll have it back.
Oh yeah, I'd say probably closer around a week.
Okay, great. Thank you very
Brian,
much.
someone can always come in and pick that up too if they don't want to receive it certified mail.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Great. All right. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Okay, it's 9:23. We're going to open the 9:15 continued public hearing notice of intent 65 Bruce Street, DEP 204-1016, construction of an addition and installation of a septic system. Who would like to speak to that? Tim, I think you've been out on site, correct?
I have. Yep. I went out last week to confirm the wetland flags and actually met out with I can't remember his name, the wetland scientist over at Places to confirm soils. Yep.
Is the applicant joining us this evening?
Yes, we have Randy Miller and John Boardman here to speak to this.
Okay.
Yep.
Good evening. This is John Boardman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Appreciate that. I see we've got a short time on the schedule, but I wanted to give everybody an update and see if we can get any questions that are outstanding. Since the last meeting, we've made some significant changes to the plans. Our original submission was
John, not to interrupt you, but with that, do you have a plan that you would like to share with the commissioners? I know there's a few that are here that didn't attend the last meeting, so just kind of backtrack and show them your plan.
Sure.
Thank you.
Let me see how I do. Is that showing up on your screens?
It is.
Awesome. All right, so we're at 65 Bruce Street. The application is for the installation of a septic system. That septic system has been reviewed and approved by the Board of Health. That's located here at the bottom of the plan. Let me see if I can scroll down.
Can you highlight the old system that's being removed? Your other plan highlighted that.
Yeah, you shrank the picture. Thank you.
So the yellow is the existing older septic that's being disabled.
Correct. I think it's original to the house, so it's over 30 years old, I believe. It's tired and it's not sized properly, so we're looking to install a system that's in full compliance with the state and local regulations that will provide better treatment. And in addition, it is fully outside the 50-foot no disturb buffer zone of the commission. So we feel that we've done the best we can on that to meet all of the requirements. The second part of this project is the property owner is looking to add an addition. When we came in front of you last time, we were proposing that addition to be located in an area that is currently parking and was within the 50-foot buffer zone. It was discussed with the commission, and the interpretation we got after that meeting was that that was not really an acceptable approach. The client went back to the drawing boards and has since proposing that addition to be moved to the front. It is located here. Pardon my sort of rough sketching. Outside that 50-foot buffer zone, so that we feel that we now fully comply with your local conservation regulations. In addition, it was questioned by I think he was the chair or the assistant chair, I apologize, about adding drainage, stormwater mitigation. So we have added two dry wells that were not part of the original plan, again, to try and comply with the stormwater management regulations to the maximum extent feasible, which I believe is the last regulation in your list, and requirement for sites that have a certain amount of impervious area added to the site. So I think we've done a lot here to try and make sure that we're meeting all of your requirements. We'd like to hear back input from the commission in terms of thoughts and feelings as how this may play out. In addition, the property owner has submitted to the commission a tree replanting plan that identifies some of the trees that will be removed as part of the construction of the septic system. This area here is wooded. Those trees will need to be removed to construct that septic system. So he's provided a plan to try and replant along the street and in other areas of the property. I would note that the whole property is pretty much already forested, so that there's not a whole lot of space for additional tree plantings, but I think he's made a strong effort here to try and meet your requests, and we'd like to move forward if possible.
John, I just have two quick questions. What are we doing with the old system? Is that staying in place, or are we taking that out?
So typically what will happen is the old system will be pumped out. And in this case, let me go to a different color here because I've been drawing all in one color. Typically, it would be pumped down and left in place. In this particular case, we're going to be installing a new septic tank and a new pump chamber. So areas where that excavation will occur will end up being removed and trucked off site. But the portion that's under the lawn here will simply be allowed to stay. Over time, any material that's in it will simply degrade. And if you were to dig it up in 10 or 15 years, it would look like soil with some stone associated. And that's standard procedure for septic repairs.
Thank you. And then my additional question is the erosion controls on the left side of your plan on both. Can you tell me why they're so far away from the 50? I'd like to have them tighter to the actual construction work. Because
so on the north side of the property, basically I've followed the wall to provide a limit of work and area for equipment. The
area of interest for me is the one that's closest to your orange line, which I think is denoted as your 50.
Yep. So then I bring that line over to where there's an existing retaining wall. And I'll zoom in and see if this looks a little better. You can see right here there's an existing retaining wall, and this area is gravel parking. Again, I followed the top of that retaining wall and enclosed the parking so that this level area is probably going to be disturbed during the construction. And that again, you need some room around your proposal to work. And that is area that is already being utilized, already having cars parked on it. It's gravel driveway. It's not a resource area that needs to be protected in my mind, and it's not buffer zone that needs to be protected. What we're concerned about would be the wetland area down here at the back of the site. And that seemed like the most logical place to provide erosion control that would prevent any sediment from washing down the slope.
and then
That's where you had it previously, right?
No, on the previous submission, I believe it followed the wall down and then followed the tree line and tied back into the back corner of the house.
Okay.
Because in that particular situation, we were putting the addition
Yeah.
here, so there would be a substantially more work in that area. So we've pulled the erosion control forward and again moved that addition out of the 50-foot buffer zone.
And then your erosion control further down?
In this case, it simply follows the 50-foot, close to the 50-foot buffer zone and the retaining wall associated with the septic system. Once it gets to where the existing lawn is, I simply followed the top of the slope at the edge of the lawn, wrapped it around again back into the corner of the house to contain any activity that was involved. This area here is all existing lawn area and being used currently. So it's not, again, it's not native or
So there
undisturbed.
would have to be some method to denote for contractors that they cannot go past the yellow line. So the commissioners could suggest snow fencing, something if you're going to keep the erosion controls so far out. Commissioners, what would you like to do? They can bring the erosion controls in or make some other means so that someone doesn't stockpile out there.
Yeah, it doesn't. It seems like the easiest thing would just be to move the erosion controls to tuck to the 50, right? You understand what Sarah's saying, right? If you leave that existing lawn open, then you're gonna have contractors, your machine, they're just gonna go willy-nilly and tear up. Even though it's lawn, we don't want it getting torn up, or there's no need for it to be getting torn up and accessing anything within the 50-foot buffer.
Isn't that going to be really close to where his new, where he's going to be adding the chambers over the previous
So
area?
you put it just outside the 50? It's
Yeah,
extra 50 feet,
I think
20
what
feet
you're
away
saying,
from.
pull the erosion controls closer to where you're going to put the new distribution
Yeah,
box.
right where you're cursed. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
that's
Right
all.
at the porch, and then tie into.
Nothing earth shattering.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. We can certainly choke down the limit and prevent any, as you said, spoils or piles being tossed around inadvertently.
And speaking
I'm happy to do that, and if I can provide a revised plan, or if you simply want to condition, if you were interested in improving, you could provide a condition that says the erosion control should be adjusted to follow the 50-foot buffer zone.
Where are you putting all of your materials and dirt that gets dug out and dirt that's going in and all that stuff?
We did talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just don't remember what we said.
In the
It has to be out
construction
of the
schedule.
Yeah.
Either
off-site or out of the 100.
Yep, remove trees and stumps to be removed from the site. There's really, as you said, there really is no location that's outside the buffer zone except a very thin strip up at the street.
So that's where everything will go then.
Yeah, so in my mind, they would cut the trees, remove the stumps from the site. I don't anticipate any significant material coming off the site other than the stumps. This will be like most septic repairs and import. So in this case, they would end up building that retaining wall, probably backing in off the street with a 10-wheeler, delivering the new soils that would be needed to create that septic system. And then once it was done, they'd import loam and spread it over the top, provide seed and wrap it up. So I don't really see the need to be stockpiling materials on site. Again, if the commission wanted to have a condition in the notice of intent in the order of conditions that required any materials to be removed from site or outside the 100-foot buffer zone, we'd be more than comfortable with that.
Right. That's boilerplate for us. So that will be in there. We usually like to have it noted on the plan for your contractors. So if you'd like to add that on just as a sequence, that's fine. Any other commissioners have any questions?
The only other one I had was, why did you put the drywall inside the 100 when you were already right there at the 100 anyway?
I'll be honest with you. I was mostly focused on making sure I was the 10-foot requirement off of the foundation.
Okay.
and I figured I was upstream or uphill of any activity, and I didn't see it as something that would cause an issue with the wetlands.
Right. Okay.
Fair enough.
So this is a notice of intent. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sarah, did you want to see the replanting plan?
Just gonna jump in on that. We haven't talked about the
yep.
replantings at all.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
I could share that.
Yep, great. Sorry about that.
Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
So, Randy, I don't know if you're on the line and want to chime in, but we staked out or marked out the area within the 100-foot buffer zone and outside of the limit of work. Randy, I believe, had an arborist out there and marked up the trees that are listed on there. He's proposing replanting trees along the street. And then I think, Tim, if you scroll up, there was some information proposing some additional plantings.
Yeah, I'm on, John, if you want.
Oh, yeah, Randy's here. So I'll be honest with a quick question for you. I looked for a tree removal bylaw in the town E-code and didn't see one. And I looked in the conservation regulations in terms of trying to make sure we were meeting some set of standards, and I was unable to find them. So I'm not sure if I missed something or if this is not part of the bylaws.
We're actively working on a policy to go along with our bylaw. So there's nothing in writing, but this is always one of our biggest sticking points, and hence why we're trying to come up with a new policy to hold applicants a little bit more accountable.
Well, appreciate that. It's helpful to know coming in what you guys are looking for, and then we can meet it.
So I see there's 14 removed. What's the number for replanting?
So replanting, if you look at the Red Sun Valley maples, looking at replantings, 6 of those. In addition to that, along the southern or the western portion of the retaining wall, I like to plant basically native blueberry bushes, cranberry, winter berry holly, and northern arrowwood. And then if you look at the southern portion of the property, where you see the oval dark green, I'm looking at planting more or less a bush garden with native bushes for low bush blueberry, chokeberry, hydrangea, and also dogwood.
And then Randy, it looks like you got some black spruces here as well.
I do, yes. Looking at some of published material, not only for Littleton, but also other areas adjacent to Littleton. A lot was published in consideration for plantings within the wetlands area, and black spruce was one of those varieties, so I chose black spruce as well to plant in that area.
Would you estimate that your plantings are north of 14, which is the number of your removal?
So again, this is very arbitrary. I would also like to highlight in the to right with the tree removal, many of the pines that are being removed are either dead or very likely to split and fall in the near future. So I took in consideration what I could plant within the 150 buffer area with what's being put in for the septic system. And I developed a plan that would be able to introduce as much as I can within that area to help with basically native species and also to maintain a adequate system that's not going to get affected by tree planting. Again, this whole area is wooded. If you're looking to do a ratio, we're looking at the likelihood of 40 to 45 trees. If that's the case, I could smash them in But I don't think that's what the intent is with this. I'm looking at something that is going to help with the species, the birds, and everything else in my area. Again, there is nothing published, so like I developed this plan according to my area and what I believe is going to be the most effective way.
We appreciate that, Randy. What we try and do is to have some method to self-evaluate, because we have a growing period of like 3 years. So it's nice that it's diverse, but we just want to see a number in front of perhaps how many blueberries. So that way, once you have it planted, we know what to follow up on as well.
So with the blueberry bushes that I have researched, I mean, one bush can spread as wide as 10 to 15 feet. So we're looking at the retaining wall. The retaining wall is about 75 feet. I'm probably looking at about anywhere from 5 to 10 bushes along that retaining wall. And that's going to be,
you don't have to kind of like suss this out right now. That can be submitted to Tim, or John can help you with that. We just want to know, have a scope of how many you are thinking of. Commissioners, do you have any thoughts on this, on the planting plan?
I have a question on the trees being removed. Can you provide some more details on number 13 and 14?
So 13,
well outside of the limit of work.
They are. Arborists came in and identified those as hazardous trees. They are. 13 isn't so much hazardous. Basically, once you remove 14 and a bunch of the other trees that are there, the arborist said that with 13 being as high as it is, basically about 100 or so feet, that if it were to break, it could be in the area of the house itself. So he designated that as a hazardous tree.
Thank you. I didn't realize you had an arborist out there. That's good to hear. I wasn't aware of that.
Did your arborist give you a report by chance?
Not yet, but when he came on site, he will have it.
Okay.
So it is being developed. All the pine trees that have been mentioned, he will have that in the plan.
So the only challenge I see is that those trees, 13, 14, your erosion control is going to be to the right of them.
Correct, but we're stumping them. Again, with that, there's a crane coming in.
Okay.
So all they're doing is cutting it. The crane itself is going to pluck it and pull it out of the area. There's going to be no disturbance to the ground.
Right. So that was where I was going next. So 13, 14, the stumps will remain in place.
Correct.
Okay, great. Because everything else, all the rest, obviously by your septic, will need to be stumped and removed by the retaining
exactly.
wall. Okay.
Yes.
No, that's good to hear as well. Thank you.
So the big thing then is how many of the bushes, high and low bushes, as Sarah suggested.
Again, if you wanted to talk about this later on, I have no problem with developing how many you want. This is a proposal. It's going to be a very expensive proposal. Bushes themselves, especially with these blueberries, chokeberries, and dogwoods, we're looking at about $30 per plant, and we're talking about very, very small plants to put in place.
Mm-hmm. How do we proceed?
Carl, do you have any thoughts? Plantings? Is Carl still here?
Yeah, he's muted.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. Carl, thoughts on the planting plan?
Well, I don't think it's enough plants to start with. Are there any tree replacements, just the shrubs?
So if you want to, again, I can go and plant 40 of the white pines, but I'm going to be cutting down saplings in order to make these small plants, these small trees that you're requesting. I'm going to be cutting down saplings. So, I mean, to the left of the property, to the west of the property, in order to put those into the 50 to 100 foot area, for the buffer zone, I will be cutting down saplings in order to make sure that the 40 to 50 trees that you would like to have put in place are going to survive.
Might be helpful for a site walk. What do you guys think?
I would note that we do have the 6 maples along the front, so that if you were asking how many trees, there are those trees proposed along the stone wall, so be aware of that.
Yep, and the black spruce.
Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at 9 trees right off the bat, shown on the plan, plus additional shrub plantings. If the commission felt it needed to be 14 to meet the standard, I'm sure we could find the room to slide a couple more in.
I think we're trying to be with Carl and the trees, but looking at the location and the property and what have you, and the fact that we've said also that bushes are also, as long as there's enough of them, are also I don't know what the right word is I'm looking for, but I think as long as there's enough bushes, the high and low bushes, that are going to provide for the wildlife and what have you, that maybe we have sufficiently addressed without artificially putting trees out in the wetlands.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
In the order of conditions, so we just have to come up with what we're referring to as diameter or growth of these trees. So, Randy, do you have thoughts on what size? Let's take, for instance, the your red maples. What diameter you're looking at?
So for replanting those, the research right now, if you're looking at 2.5-inch diameter trees to replant, I'm looking at $800 per tree on that. I mean, realistically, if that's what you want, sure. I mean, realistically, for me, ideally, I'm looking at $100 to $120 per tree for basically a newer growth. Again, this is something that is very new. I'm trying to make the commission happy, but at the same time, I don't want to go broke planting trees for a bunch of other things I need to do for my project.
So just so you know, we'll monitor, I apologize if I'm repeating myself, we'll monitor the trees for success for 3 years. So there is kind of industry standard about 30% loss. So
understood, but at the same time, I just don't know if you want me to plant a 2.5-inch diameter tree, or if you're okay with me planting like a 2-foot tree that's basically like an inch in diameter.
I don't think we want little baby trees that are going to take 20 to 30 years to get to any size of any consequence.
Well, this is the problem that we always face.
So I guess my question to
$800 a tree, but at the same time, you're
correct,
and a whole bunch of stuff, and
at the same time,
I think historically we've looked for 2-inch and above diameters. I could be wrong. But
yeah, I think you're right, Sarah, but I don't know that I've ever heard the justification of that other than that they have a better chance of survival.
Right, exactly.
Right? So if the applicant's willing to take the risk, knowing what you just said, that you have a 3-year monitoring period and you have to reach a survival percentage, if they're willing to take that risk with the understanding that if that percentage isn't met, then they have to procure more plants and more trees and install them and start all over, then I'm okay with that. We're talking saplings versus 2-inch. That's not 10 years to gain that size. Right? Those saplings grow to 2 inches pretty quickly. And that's not a decade worth of growth that we're losing out on.
Okay, let's keep moving. So basically we have modifications to the plan with the erosion control. Perhaps modifications to the replanting plan that has approximate numbers. Is there anything else that we would need to have this go forward? Anyone else have any other concerns?
I guess we'll get the report from the arborist when that comes in.
Yes, it'll be in.
I also noted that we're going to add a note to the plan, no stockpiles within the 100-foot buffer zone. So that's on my to-do list.
Okay. Commissioners, what would you like to do? That sounds like there's some information and modifications that are significant on the plan that you could hold till June 10th is when we meet again. What would you like to do?
Sounds like that will tie things up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, John, the modifications to the plans, also your arborist notes, and you're just planting a little bit more detail for June 10th. Is that doable?
I can certainly provide that information, yes. And the only request I would have is that if there are any other questions or concerns, we are made aware of them tonight so that, as the commission mentioned, hopefully we can tie this up on the 10th.
I think that looks doable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So with your permission, we will continue you and Randy to June 10th.
Thank you. I appreciate your time tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Our 9:20 has continued. It will not be heard. And then we have our 9:25. So it's 10 of 10. So continued discussion, enforcement order 0 Ipswich. Lot U 15-16-0, plantings required by May 15th, 2025. Tim, I believe you're going to give us an update.
Yep, Mark Gallagher could not make it tonight. He had another Concom meeting to be at, but I went out to the property and confirmed all of the plantings are in.
Excellent. Okay. Great. Anyone else have anything else for this meeting?
Do we
So
have
what's the next step with that?
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
I'll have to go back and check, but I would imagine you guys either, I believe you've already talked about a monitoring period.
Definitely. And they're going to have to go out and water those because there's no water out there.
Yeah.
So, but we talked about that. They know it. So
it's just the holding period. We're just waiting for them to monitor that this enforcement order, everything's staying in place, correct?
Yeah.
I would say until we know it starts to take a little bit. Okay. Ed, did you have something?
Do we have an update on Powers Road? He was supposed to by now.
He did.
Got the
Ed wasn't here.
storage facility off of the property.
We did talk about that in the beginning of the meeting, Ed.
Sorry.
That's fine. I went by today, and as far as I could tell from the road, the container has been removed from the property, from what I could see.
And the trailer?
The trailer is now in the location where the container was, pretty close to the house, outside of the 50-foot buffer.
Right. And now they start with the
cleaning the fill and getting that debris out of there, and they will notify me, and I'll go out and maybe a commissioner to confirm the fill is now clean before they do the rest of the restoration work.
Okay. Sorry to make you go through it again.
Oh, that's fine.
No worries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All right, final roll call. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Ed.
And Foltz, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous. We're adjourned.